It's interesting. It's hard when you start this sort of process to try to talk to other people about it.
We're speaking Swedish and they're speaking German.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, there's a lot of overlap, with Christianity and this teaching and um I don't know. It's we just go down these rabbit holes and sort of at the end of it all, we just throw our hands up and say, I have no idea.
That's a spiritual awakening, actually. So I was talking with Ricky this morning, and I said, Ricky, I'm not wise. I'm not spiritual. I'm exhausted and I'm tired and I can't do it anymore. And she
Yeah,
said, she said, bullseye.
it's true. It's just pure surrender. And I don't know what, because when you're raised in a certain tradition and a certain conditioning, certain doctrine, it's almost easier to live that way because you just follow the rules and you're good, you
Right.
know?
Good,
And then when you don't follow
good.
the rules, you're kind of a piece
Bad.
of crap.
And then you just everything that comes up, you just project it outside of you. So it's a fail-proof formula. It's been, I mean, it's
Right.
never worked. But when I was telling my godfather last night, that the coyote's not going to catch the roadrunner, but it's not going to stop him.
Well, right. Right. So how do you finally say, you know what? Maybe I don't need to catch the roadrunner.
And the roadrunner sits down and plays cards with you.
Exactly. You sit down and say, enough of the chasing, enough of the running, enough
I
of the,
know.
you know, uh, trying. I think it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And I don't know when you get to a point where you're just like, it's okay, because I think the more you talk about the sort of issue, or the more you talk about your trauma or whatever, sometimes the more you dig dig your heels in more, you know,
and and
and
even
you
that's
can't let
part of the that takes us it all takes us to surrender. Got up to take a shower, and it just hits me at the strangest times. I was just stepping into the bathroom, all of a sudden it dawned on me, all of my trauma is just a story.
go. It is
for
a
for like
story.
for like a 3 second I said it's all just a story and I'm doing it to myself. And then three
Right.
seconds later, I fell back into the dream. I fell asleep again. But for those 3 seconds, I saw it real clearly. I don't have to keep this up. But again, it's the habit. It's the conditioning. I am Kenneth Stephen Price, born 4, 5, 6, 7. And the whole episode starts one more time every morning. So it's practice.
Stay in that space between each thought,
Yeah.
then it makes it easier, I think.
But I got to keep remind. It's like playing a violin. You just got to practice, practice, practice.
Right. Well, and it's definitely much easier to be in a place where everybody's kind of the
Right.
same mindset. It's way easier. It seems like I have to forgive myself and other people every second of every day. It seems like that's where my head is right now. Like okay, well, I forgive myself for thinking that, and I forgive myself for doing that. I forgive you for doing that. It's exhausting. It's really exhausting.
And I'm glad you brought that up. And actually, you know what? I got that on recording. You know why? Because that's what a spiritual awakening is like. Because when we realize how much, if we could pretend it wasn't there, who would want to look at this stuff? But it's coming up, and that's a sign that we have to follow this path now. We don't have a choice. We have to wake up now because it's getting too painful to stay asleep. So it's kind of like an
Right.
alarm bell has gone off. We've gone down the basement, turned on the lights. Holy cow! But that's where the miracles start, because what does he say? And mighty companions will join you. Well, he wasn't talking about people, But
Hmm.
I still at that level, I like to consider what he's saying is people in terms of mighty companions. And that's where change begins to take place. And that's where we begin to grow up, and the whole purpose
Yeah.
is to grow up. So yeah, I if it were easy, everyone would be doing it.
I think I spent most of my life in a place of victimhood. I think that's probably the world's most chronic condition. And more so than any sickness. I mean, I think victimhood is definitely a sickness. And I have had that sickness for a lot of my life because I always felt like I didn't have choices. I felt like I had to do what somebody else wanted me to do, or react how I'm supposed to react. And if I don't react the way I'm supposed to react, then I get in trouble. It's and so you start to play very small and not exercise your own uh, power, or what the word is, your own sense of self, really. So that's where I am. I'm like, I don't really even know who the heck I am at this point. I really don't. Because, you have label of wife and mother and sister and daughter, and you have to act a certain way in each role.
Yeah, a chameleon.
Do you feel that way? I don't, I
Well,
mean, it,
I'm hearing you loud and clear until guess what? I was invited to a dinner party, and I hadn't eaten anything, and they served me a glass of wine.
oh,
and
okay.
and then I felt it. I just sitting at dinner, and I just told the host, I said, "Would you just stop talking? This is so annoying."
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
shit, yeah. Because
I would
what it
probably would have used different words, but yeah.
yeah, that I didn't realize that I one glass of wine would do that to me on an empty stomach. It turns it's but again, it's another trap. Let's take you down. The ego loves that. The ego is going to just take that and just give you so many rewards for trying to improve the dream character. But we get to
Right.
our age and we realize we've tried it. We've tried all these different masks, and every single one of them fell off, and every single one of them brought us unhappiness. So we're actually going in the opposite direction. The prodigal son. We're now saying that's it. We'll wave the white flag. No more masks, and we're going to start going home. And this is where it
Right.
really starts to rock and roll. But it's
Hmm.
where we have to do this 24/7. It's like walking to the bathroom. Finally, I got it. I mind drained myself. The moment I stepped across the threshold, and I lost it. But we're just going to keep practicing, working together. Joining in this because this.
Positivity, positivity. Let's all be positive all the time. I think it's just about peace, not necessarily happiness all the time. That's joy and happiness are like a goal, you know. So if you don't
Well,
have something to look forward to, then you can't be happy. Why do we always have to have a goal or a plan or a whatever?
no.
Right, right, right.
Right.
And read this book and you'll
Yeah.
unlock the key.
Oh,
Unlock the key to what gives you, happiness.
what gives
I
you
don't,
pleasure? Not
I
happiness, but
think,
pleasure.
right, right. It's it's all relative, It really is. It's just all relative. And why are we comparing this and this to that? And when we're all the same, why?
Because because the coyote likes to chase the roadrunner. I don't know why.
I know. And so now at this point in time, I used to have all these sort of things that I wanted, a nicer car, a nicer house, and we are, but it's just not as important to me anymore.
And your husband's going to retire and he's going to get a gold watch.
But why do we do it?
Fear. When I was a young man, from the some people were raised, like yours, you were raised Catholic.
Hmm.
My father's religion was capitalism. I don't know. I don't know too much
Yeah,
about his parents, but it was like, I used to hear words like, if you would hear the word sin, I would hear the word old money. And so it was
oh,
just,
really?
so
Yeah.
it was, I don't know. They wanted to be like the Rockefellers and it wasn't really that much. I mean, it was several million, but it wasn't like that. Well, but part of, but there were other members, of the family that were like that. So we wanted to be like them. So I had that conditioning. And so along with it came trust funds and tax shelters. And that was my father's God.
Right.
And so when I was young, I got, a hold of a trust fund, and I tried everything I could, everything to make it work. I tried philanthropy, I tried charities, I get an educate, everything, nothing worked. Until finally, I reached, my later in life, and the money ran out, and then life began to work. It makes no sense in this world that until that money was gone, and this is where the new age,
Right.
in
Yeah.
my parable, it was more than that. It had attached to it this word called security.
Right.
Now, in my parable, since I was raised that way from a little boy, security was attached to that, and worth was attached. Two fundamental words: security and worth, that have taken me into my senior years to realize that it's to go inside and realize, no, I'm secure just because I'm breathing, and I'm worthy just because I
Right.
am. And
Right.
so what you're describing is the conditioning that we all come here to untangle. And Ricky pointed out to me this morning. We joined this morning. I join with her every Wednesday. And what was it? I said, "Oh, Ricky, I'm doing this on behalf of my family." And she said, "Not your family. You're doing it on behalf of the entire collective." And,
Right.
and she always gets underneath me every Wednesday, and because I need an attaboy, because I'm at work, and schlepping odd jobs, and I need some underpinning. And so we do this every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. And yeah, that's was my morning reminder. This is. She also said, she said, you're training for become a teacher of God. And so are you, by the way. Anybody who's untangling this, looking at it. All we have to do is look at it. See,
I it is so hard to deconstruct yourself because it's literally embedded in your DNA.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm living here with my godfather who's 86, and I'm noticing these tendencies of approval seeking are still in my energy field. I said, what
Right.
is this thought? I said, Kenneth, stop it for a second. You are a 58-year-old man, but the thinking. See, this is what's beautiful about when we get together and start to share this. That thinking's always going to be there, and that's what Ricky said to me this morning. She said, just let the thinking be there. Let it. She said, just watch it, notice it. Don't touch it.
Right.
Oh, I'm going, but it's completely innocent. He wants to hear about my day. He wants to know what I'm doing. He's a terribly loving man, and I
Yeah.
tell him all about my day, and I say, oh my God, I'm going back to a 19-year-old. Daddy, look what I've done. Look what, oh, good boy, good boy. And, I mean, it's very
Right.
benevolent. It's benevolent. But I say, wait a minute. There's
Right.
so I don't know how to
Yeah. And,
speak to
and
it
it's
other than just
go
just
ahead.
let it be. You're watching it, you're noticing it, you're talking about it, you're sharing. This is the solution right here.
You act a certain way just so that you don't have to feel uncomfortable.
Well, you said this. Maybe that's the title of the Zoom call. Uncomfortable. I
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but spoiler alert. You get to this place in life, you realize it's not going to. Waking up is not going to be comfortable. Growing up is not going to be comfortable. But it's going to give us so many virtues like bravery and authenticity, and our voice is going to come back. So, we trade in our comfortability, and we get, all these virtues that, religions can only, read about. You can't,
Right.
you can't be brave and be a people pleaser. It's compromise.
No,
You put on
exactly.
the ego. Oh, the ego loves to be brave. Well, no, it just loves to stuff down the fear and, put on, but the fear is still down there. No, we have to take a look at that fear. Well, it's the guilt. And
Guilt.
that's what I love about A Course in Miracles. I think, oh, I'm guilty about what I did to my family 35 years ago, and Ricky will stop me. She said, "No, you're not." The truth is that guilt was there, from the very beginning. It's showing up in form. Oh, you think I'm not upset for the reasons I think. There's a real, see, if we can brave, that's where the Course in Miracles can come into this Zoom call. If we
Right.
can hold on to the metaphysics and say, like Keith Kavanaugh tells us every week, you're not upset for the reasons you think. I don't know why I'm upset, but allow it. Just, breathe through it, say yes to it.
What do you do with it? Where do you put it? Because we all feel like we deserve to be angry. We deserve, I mean, look what happened. I deserve, I
Well, when I was in Mexico, one of the times, I just love, God bless those communities. And I went to several of them, by the way. And one of them, he said, just put it on the altar. So we'd all get together in a group circle. In the middle, we'd have a bowl, and I'd perform all the rituals and write it on paper and put it in the bowl. And I next morning I woke up, I said, I went in the middle of the night and I pulled it out of the altar bowl. But again, we just keep unpacking it until we finally realize it's not going to go away. But he gave it to me straight talk. He said, you're just going to have to take long walks and repeat, I'm not the one who's angry. Like, I'm getting it from every single teacher. Like Keith says, I'm not upset for the reasons I think. Jack Johnson said, you're not the one who's angry. But again, both these teachers, I have high respect for them because they say you're just going to have to keep practicing and faith. So footprints in the sand behind me, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is holy
right.
work. I mean, you use the word isolation. How about the word hermitage? I want to meet the person who can, do this mind training and then, play the role of grandma at the same time. I don't think so.
Right.
We need a lot of solitude to do this. I do. You want this is the beautiful thing that you and I are having this conversation, because you obviously two very different scripts. You played the mother role, the Catholic role. I played the gay man role, the whatever other roles I played. You know,
Mhm.
but we come together here in the senior years, and we kind of put our cards on the table and say, mine didn't work, yours worked, no, mine didn't work either. maybe there's maybe there's a better way here. Yeah, let's see if we can explore it together. One of my greatest heroes, I talked about him last couple Zoom calls, my friend Dale Crow, who just
Mhm.
got out after serving a 20-year sentence for murder. And
Mhm.
he is so absolutely refreshing. He posts, he's now posting, he's got a device, he's living the life in Florida. Well, he's really doing he's doing fantastic. But he's posting on Facebook his shadow, how difficult it is
Yeah.
for him. I said, he called me the other day and he said, Kenneth, I need help. God, that is so refreshing. Not,
Yeah.
hey, Kenneth, how's the ball game? Just like, you can't do that. But if someone calls and says, I'm in my shadow right now, wow. Now
Yeah.
there's intimacy. Maybe that answers your question earlier. Maybe that's love. When someone calls and says, I'm
Yeah.
frightened, I can't see out of it. Can we walk through it together? Maybe that's love.
Ask me how I'm doing.
Oh, don't you hate that question?
I hate it because I don't want to say I'm fine, but I always do because I really don't want to be analyzed. Because when you immediately say, when you say I'm not doing that great, or if you were to say that, then it would be why? What's wrong?
No,
And
mistake number
okay,
two.
this is what you need to do. What can I do to help? Do you want to go on a trip? Do you want to spend more time together? Lonely. It's a lonely place to be.
This is the nuance. We can't love ourselves. Kenneth cannot love Kenneth because Kenneth is a fabrication of thoughts and beliefs and history. So it really has, it is by grace that moment when we, like you on the trees, that's
Right.
the moment of grace when we realize. That's where the metaphysics have been so helpful in my story. Subject, object. Okay, that all these metaphors, like come back into the movie theater with Jesus. Dale. It wasn't. There was. I have another friend. His name is Dale Blackford. It was 15 years ago. He said something. He was a Unity minister, and he started talking about the character on the movie screen 15 years ago. I was like, what's this guy talking about? But he was. I had to listen very carefully because it would take me many years. I could conceptualize it, but it wasn't until I went into the bathroom this morning, stepped across the threshold, that I integrated it. Oh yeah, the thinking is a part of this construct. I called. We all have grist, and you share with me yours. I'll share with you a little bit about mine. When it comes to family, I have a gay brother who just turned 60 last month, and I haven't seen him in 37 years. Now that weighs very heavily on me. It always
I
has.
bet it does.
Yeah, and so, well, I did. That's not true. I did hear from him about 3 years ago, and it wasn't very pleasant. It was a 5-page letter, single spaced. And I got into the first 3 paragraphs and I had to put it down. I said, I can't read this. This is way too painful. I said, all right, I'll get into. I got 3 paragraphs, and I said, I'm not doing this to myself. So I have a trusted friend of the family who knows us both. We all grew up as kids together. So I trusted this man, and I messaged him and I said, I need help, buddy. And I said, I can't read it. Will you read it for me? I said, just read it and tell me if there's anything I need to know, because I hadn't heard from my brother in over 10 years, and after my mother died, and that wasn't pleasant either. So, he called me back within about an hour, and he said, I reviewed the letter, and I said, good. Is there anything I need to know? And he said, no. I said, basically, I went down the list. I said, is he all right? Are there any emergencies? And nothing that would be of concern to you. And I said, so what's the gist? And he said, let me give it to you straight, Kenneth. Your brother is a construct. Now, this guy's not a Course in Miracles student, but I knew I could trust him. And that's all he said to me. He said, Kenneth, your brother's a construct.
Right.
As to why he could have, if it had been anybody else, they would have said, oh, well, this happened in 1978. And oh, how dare, I can't believe your brother won't speak to you after. No, he didn't go down that. He just said your brother's a constant. Talk that now. That answers the question. That's what love is. And he didn't give me any sympathy. He didn't buy into my stories, but he returned the call within an hour. Well, there's a couple of different ways I could speak to that. The 12 steps, of course, has a very clear formula. You write the letters, and
Yeah.
I'm a great advocate of that. And Byron Katie, when she initially had her, but Byron Katie waited until she woke up. I spent so many years in 12-step programs, and I had a lot of of those letters to write, but I had several, more than one, wise elder come to me and say, do not write that letter until, patience.
Right.
Sometimes I think the 12 steps, it's still very Christian based on, sin and guilt. I did this wrong and I'm sorry. let's see, how do we, it was difficult for me. He was apologizing. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it put me into a very difficult place because um, sorry isn't what I want from him. I want from him to forgive himself
Right.
so that he can evolve beyond that behavior. So if I responded to the I'm sorry, it wouldn't, be a loving act on my part. So
Right.
we truly have to do. This is what Lisa Fair gave me at Living Miracles in 2017 Mystery School. She said, "You don't owe anybody an apology." I said, "What? What do you mean?" She goes, "No. Course in Miracles students do not apologize." Now, for day-to-day things, to be polite, I still apologize. But
Sure.
um, what we do, this is why it's because obviously I've tried that with my brother for decades. I'm sorry, and I've tried. He won't have any of it, and I don't know what's going on his end, so I can't really speak to that. Uh, but what we're doing, that's why if my brother had accepted my amends or had accepted my apologies, I wouldn't be doing this deep diving. To realize that I didn't I didn't do that to himself. I didn't do it to anybody. None of it ever happened. And that's where Dale Crow comes in. He actually did commit murder. And
Right.
his victim's family have said, we will never forgive you. And now I see what's come out of it. I see this 50-year-old man who is humble. He is honest. He's transparent, and he's affecting lives. That's I
Yeah.
think that's what comes out of it. I was talking about shit to fertilizer and wounded healer. But if my
Hmm.
brother if my brother would pick up the phone and say, Kenneth, I understand that was 37 years ago. It's all water under the bridge. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
doing this. I tell you right now, I would go straight back to family. Uh-uh. No,
Right.
it's grist for the mill.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's as you've been sharing this, I just keep thinking of Vipassana, where people sit and are uncomfortable for days at a time, sit in the discomfort.
Right.
I'm no spiritual master. I still distract, and but the magic about being our age is that the distractions, we don't need to stop distracting because they just wear off organically. It's like I was
Right.
listening to David Hoffmeister on the way to work this morning, and he just loves. He said, well, "Oh, this is exactly what he said." He said, "I love people in 12-step programs. I love alcoholics." He said,
Yeah.
"Because they're only once removed from reality." He said they
Yeah.
have. He said they have burned their illusion to the ground with drugs and alcohol. Like my
Hmm.
friend Dale, I have two friends, Dale Blackford, and I did the twoormore1.com ministry for 9 months, and that was his message. Uh, Basically, he loves 12-step programs because alcoholics and drug addicts have burned their illusion to the ground, and they are open and willing and receptive a, 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 a for the message. I want to speak to one more thing that I heard in 12-step programs years ago, but it's applicable maybe to some of these parts of this conversation. They called it a living amends, which is
Hmm.
basically what Dale's doing. He can't, he's not going to get a letter from his victim's family saying, we forgive you, Dale.
Right. Right.
So his living amends is all these TikTok videos, his ministerial outreach. You know, there was I think there was a book years ago. I think it was by Colin Tipping. I'm not sure the author. It was called Radical Forgiveness. And it spoke just to this, to where a person had grievously harmed a close friend, and the person died.
Hmm.
There's
Mm.
no way you could atone for that to a dead body. So this person was operating with just this huge reservoir of guilt. And then there was a chapter in the book where the dead person spoke to the live person, and I don't know if it was a true channel or how it came in, but the message was, no, you you are completely innocent. None of it took place, but you're going to go on and you're going to use this. I can't remember the exact. I mean, it was years ago I read that book, but I think you get the gist of the message. Is it's
Hmm.
fine.
Right.
Um, the 12-step programs didn't have advanced metaphysics, so we really couldn't bring this up, in those 12-step, which is fine. That was the 90s. We didn't even,
Right.
most of us had never cracked A Course in Miracles. But by the time you get to this place, we're allowed to draw, we're allowed to let it go. And
Yeah.
I can't let it go. But that's where the 12 steps. They had, I can't, he can, I think I'll let him turn it over. I don't know how to turn it over, but when you get to this place in life where it gets this painful, that's surrender. Maybe that I'm not sure if that's the title of this Zoom call yet, because I think surrender was the title of another one. But
Render uncomfortable.
oh, uncomfortable.
I
That
don't
was the
know.
name.
I sometimes feel like I need to gut myself open, just emotionally and even physically, that emotion that comes into your head makes you want to physically gut yourself open.
Well, that's the Catholic conditioning.
I know.
You know,
It's true. It's like I want to, punish myself in that way because I deserve it. Um, so
and I'm not going to preach that I've got solutions or answers, because
mhm.
this call that I'm doing every Wednesday is part of my solution, because I still have that in my story.
Yeah,
I don't have a solution. I still feel guilty for what took place 37 years ago, because I still believe it took place 37 years ago. Therefore, I keep hosting Zoom
right.
calls. I keep, taking calls from my friend Dale. I just keep doing it. It takes trust and bravery to be on this path. Honestly, I think if my guilt would lift, I might become complacent. So it's not punishment, but it is a push, and it works, because I just, that's why it's so valuable to talk with Ricky every Wednesday, because she says, "Oh, I see the changes, I see the evolution." And I need somebody to see, who can stand back and, say forest for the trees. It's interesting you brought trees up earlier in the conversation, because we
Yeah,
all need friends to do that. But out here in the real world, I know we get the grist. Families are the best. Relationships are the best. He loves relationships, not because they bring unicorns and rainbows, but because everything unlike love is going to come, especially the romantic ones. Those are the best, because everything unlike love is going to come straight to the. I think I talked last week about, you know, uh, a mountain of shame came out of me. Where has this been for 5 decades? Oh, it's just now, but this time, like, you're supposed to, you can't fix it, you can't change it, can't do anything, but you do have to feel it. You see, a lot of these teachings are engineered to try and fix our shame. When you get to this place, just feel the feelings. That's that's
yeah.
that's
You feel
uncomfortable.
them, and it's
Yeah,
sort of tragic and wonderful at the same time.
it's the
It's
fire.
good to feel that, but I don't want to feel it all the time. I just don't. I don't want
That's
to feel it
honest.
all the time.
If
You
I said I
know,
wanted to feel it, I'd be a liar.
right,
But
right.
the truth is, we can't not feel it. What do they say? The tolerance for pain is high, but is not without limit.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I truly believe, when Popeye eats his spinach, it's all I can stands, I can't stands no more. This is what I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring it up earlier, but we've stayed silent our whole life. Compromise, be
Mhm.
polite. Of course, we were rewarded. I mean, Queen Elizabeth,
Mhm. Sure.
But what I did in Phoenix last spring was a risk. I said, what will happen if I get honest? Which was just it was one of my first attempts at really getting honest. Now, I
Right.
could have polished it. I could have said, "Excuse me, everyone. Let's see. If I would have had Chat GPT, gone to the bathroom, told Chat GPT, exactly how to phrase it, come back to the dinner table. Let's see. I'm really experiencing some loneliness here, and I'm actually having some little few PTSD. I could have put it really eloquently, but no, a glass of wine and just blurt it out. But you see what I'm saying? I want to encourage people to get honest, sometimes get out the Zen sticks. I've had people get out the Zen sticks, but then apply love afterwards.
Right.
Sometimes we're not going to get the
Right.
message unless it's, they were applying the Zen stick before life was going to apply it to me. I'm not
Right.
a parent,
Right.
but I imagine a parent is going to have to, give a harsh no sometimes. What happened 37 years ago with my family? My father couldn't communicate. I couldn't communicate. My mother couldn't communicate. My grandfather died. There was a $5 million trust. All hell broke loose. All hell broke loose. As soon as we all tried to manage, control, polite, all thing collapsed. Harsh words were said. Battle lines were drawn. Wills. Legal documents were redrafted, and that was 37 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
No, we got to go deep.
You do have to go deep, and you have to kind of be grateful for some of those things, even though it's painful to think about.
I won't deny that. The pain has to be felt. I love David Hoffmeister. He explains it all. I haven't really. Well, I've been in his communities, but I haven't really been underneath him as a teacher. But he makes from what I know about his communities is they have parameters to let the pain up. It's like, who's that woman that came on last week? She had just come out of his mystery school. I can't remember her name, but we talked about expression sessions. Now I never had any luck. I tried those expression sessions, but at least I was giving it the old college try. I just ended up telling stories. But
right. I don't know. I've been on retreats and guided things like that, and I've always reacted the way I thought they wanted me to.
It's another trap. Here too.
Yeah, you do. You just don't, and you don't want to be vulnerable in that way, I guess. So you just sort of
vulnerable,
check all the boxes, and I wish I would like to be somewhere I could just, let everything out without any sort of reaction from anybody. So I guess that's why, a lot of times I just cry in the shower.
Well, I'm going to end the Zoom call. Have you ever met Mother Ayahuasca?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. In fact,
I'll send you Andres some. What part of the country are you in, by the way?
I'm sorry?
What part of the country are you in?
Kentucky.
Oh, that's right. I should have known that. I'll see.
Yeah, close to Cincinnati. There is a place in Michigan. We have a house in Michigan, and there's a place in Michigan I'd like to go to that has those sorts of retreats.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that. I really have, because I think I need it. I think I need something like that.
Well, they give each person, they call it La Purga, the purge. They give each person a vomit bucket. There you go.
I know. I have seen that many times. I'm not sure if I want to go through that, but that's just a physical manifestation of purging, right? I mean,
many different. Ayahuasca is going to give each person, it's different for each person. I really, I'd like to unpack more, but we're coming on the hour. But just to kind of briefly speak to it, ayahuasca goes all the way down at least I call her for me. She went all the way down and she said, "Bottoms up, kiddo. Here it comes." No, no, I've been doing this for 50 years now. She said, "Sorry." But it's 8 hours later. I feel 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
What kind of a furball did I cough up in that ceremony? She said, as soon as the medicine kicked in, she said, "Oh, hi, it's me. I know exactly where it is." "What are you doing?" She said, just. She said, "I'm sorry. This is surgery. We don't have any morphine available. It'll be over in a few hours. Just sit still."
Right. And deal with it.
She said, "Just go over to the opera pray your ass off, and puke into the bucket. I'll take it from here, kiddo."
Oh my God.
That was mine with Mother Ayahuasca. It's going to be different for each person, but I went in there specifically saying, "Okay, I'm ready to be shown, and I need a miracle." She said, "All right." The trouble is,
you didn't get to specify how that would happen, right?
Well, she had a few disclaimers. She said, "Oh, by the way, I've never been in a human body before, and I have no mercy, but I can fix this." I laugh about it now. I wasn't laughing.
I bet you weren't.
What you and I are doing here is holy work, and so I wanted this conversation. Man, I'm gonna go back to the video editing software, and I'm gonna start playing with this, because this needs to be documented, what we talked about.
Okay, well, I appreciate you, and thanks for listening.
Well, great. So this has been Reverend Kenneth Price on Wednesday, September 10th, and I've been here with Mary for the last hour, and we have unpacked many different things, family dynamics, and I think what we're going to do, Mary, is I'm going to label this. I want one word for each archive, and this one is going to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because that was kind of like the common thread. So if you're watching this on YouTube, leave your comments below and join us every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is Kenneth Price for Real Talk. Much love. God bless.